Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, one of those crazy people that sign up for Amazing Race and just, what do we want to do next month? Well, I think I'm going to go on 5 continents and 10 countries and just go around and travel a little bit. Oh, that sounds fun. That's a good idea. Vacationing? Well, no, I'm not allowed to have my phone and I'm not going to have any money with me. And there's no time to sleep or, eat. And by the way, the only way to stay out in these countries is if I win these challenges that are physical and mental and made to just drive you crazy. And then you got to deal with airports and travel agencies and cabs and the language barrier. And you have a bunch of other teams that are trying to take over too. So
we have no sense of direction.
And the voice you're hearing is of Sheri LaBrant, who along with her son Cole, we're in season 28 on The Amazing Race. And what do you think of mom and her son, right? With all the people, think about Amazing Race. You think of people in gym shorts, right? With their best, gym shoes on, sneakers, whatever you call it, and fit conditions, right? There's no way a mom and her son, even if they're in good shape, like Sheri and Cole were, there's no way they're going to get close to winning this thing. Second out, first out. What do you think? How about runner up? They're not playing. They came there to kick butt and they kick butt. Runner up. That's a win. We've interviewed over 25 racers, as they call it. And I've said to every one of them, you're top 5 team there. That's a win. I mean, what these people go through, and they're runner up. So Sheri LaBrant, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Hi.
So tell us about, what are you sitting out and back in front of the fireplace and hanging out by the pool? What's going on when this idea of you and Cole getting into The Amazing Race? Where'd that start?
Okay. So this is how we got approached. It was a social media season. And so they CBS, I guess, emailed Jack, that's my third son, and Cole. Well, obviously Cole kind of gets a lot of emails because he, at the time was a Viner. So he didn't see it, but Jack is one that saw it. And they looked into it and they kind of figured it out that maybe it was actually legit. And so they responded. And then as they were interviewing Cole and interviewing Jack at the time was only 17. And so they knew that they knew that they definitely wanted Cole to audition for the show because he kind of fit, he's a Viner, he's, young, blonde hair, blue eye, kind of that hunky, they kind of have like little, with each show, if you notice, they kind of have like a variety of different people. Yep. And so that's what we'll kind of fit into. But then they didn't know who was going to race with them. So they had his dad, myself, his older brother, and even the 17-year-old Jack. We all sent in videos with Cole and to audition. Sorry, so y'all are going to see me looking away because my cat.
She doesn't only have a house full of kids. She's got a house full of cats. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
And so I'll be honest with you. I really didn't think that they would pick me just because I got a house full of men. They're all very athletic. Ken is not just bilingual, but possibly he's definitely bilingual, but can understand several other languages. And I've just been a stay-at-home mom. So my whole spiel was that I wanted to do it because Cole's about to go away to college. And I'm really good at making sandwiches and cleaning toilets. And, I just thought that they're really not going to pick me. So when they chose me to be his partner, I was really shocked. And even a couple of times, the guy that we would go back and forth with and talk, and he would give us, you need to do this step, this step. I several times was like, are you sure you picked the right person? Are you sure you really want me to race with Cole and you don't want like one of the other guys? Because it would have been like a powerhouse team instead of Cole running around the world with like a 45-year-old mom.
So I can picture how do they inform you? Do they just call you on the phone and say, Sheri, we're picking you? was the rest of the family floored? Were they like, like we're all these athletes and great guys?
Honestly, it was like this. We got the first leg. Mom, you can barely run. And I'm like, I can
that's so good.
So I'm like trying to like run around the neighborhood or like speed walk, to get into like better shape.
That's so good. That's so good. I want to take a couple of questions from our listeners and viewers. And Ellen where's Ellen from? I can't read it. I think it's Juniper, Florida, Ellen. She's asking, is there any way to prepare for the Amazing Race? Meaning, you talk about walking and stuff. Are you working out? Are you changing your diet? How do you do it?
So this is what I did. That was probably wrong, because I'd watched the show and I knew that like a lot of times women are, like. So I started like trying to like lift weights and kind of like get my lower half, because that's where my strength is. I'm weak up here, but my strength is down at the lower part of my body. Well, I don't think the riding the camels was the only thing that like required lower body strength. But then I did run around the neighborhood. I probably should have put a backpack on and put stuff in my backpack and ran with it, because that was a totally different, that's totally different. Also, my backpack ended up being too big for me. So, I'm a mom and I overpacked. I way overpacked. I like thought of every scenario. So probably about 3 legs in, we had to just start throwing stuff out. And then my backpack was too big and it swung on me. But I would definitely, I feel like running with a backpack would have been like the best thing that I could have done. I just ran, but I didn't run with the backpack.
I didn't ask you what Cole's reaction was. And I mean, I'm thinking now I don't have as many kids as you do. I have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, 9 to 18 and 19, sorry. And I just think about if like, I have 2 athletes, and Nick and Luca, they're, been athletes since they're little kids, and my daughters are dancers, but I can just think if a show came back and said, we're going to take Emily and she's my little, tiny sweet girl, she's not going to be running around the country. And Nick and Luca are like, they would be all about that and do everything, and probably a lot more successful than I. What was Cole, it seems like a nice guy. I obviously don't know him, but I see from the show, very thoughtful. He didn't want you to swear. You said in one interview, he doesn't want you to swear. I mean, it just seems like a really nice kid. And obviously we see him out in the public eye. And he has a very good reputation. So I'm sure he was diplomatic, but was he thinking kind of this is a dad and son thing? And then all of a sudden they pick you? I don't mean that, negatively, but I just wonder what his reaction was.
Well, and that's actually where I felt bad, because it's not that you have favorite children at all. At least I don't have, but there's certain kids that you have a little bit more of the same personality,
Right.
And so he's a boy, and like really them two together racing. If he had raced with his brother Jack, there would have been fists that would have probably been thrown. Yeah. But if he raced with his dad, he's a daddy's boy. And so I felt badly, because I felt like I had taken that special, something special away from them. Cole never really made me feel that way, but I'm sure that there's probably a little bit that, here's another thing that you have to look at, is that his social media career was growing.
Yep.
And he had to really weigh, is it worth dropping out? Like, basically you're a month gone. It'd be like you starting a new job, and then you're like, hey, I'm not going to be able to show up for a month.
Right.
It could really hurt you. So that was like a huge fear, is like, well, what if we do it? And then what if like we do get out leg 1 or 2, and now we're quarantined someplace. He's not going to get any sort of exposure, being on the show, or any sort of memories being on the show. And on top of that, he's kind of dropped out of sight for a month. That was probably one of his biggest concerns, is this a wise career decision to make at the moment?
That's smart too, right? I mean, what he does, you can't tell anybody what you're doing and where you're going and where you are. So him not being in the public eye for that period of time is, while you're building a brand, right? And whether you're a Shark Tank or you're a social media guy like Cole, it's got to be consistent and it's got to be, content, not the opposite, which is what he would do. And I didn't even think about that point. That's a great point you just made about being successful on this thing, going on and getting knocked out in the first leg or second leg. It's not a great, career move for him to do. And again, he's not judged on what type of athlete he is or how he can solve puzzles, but you still want to do things, be successful in all of your endeavors if possible, right? And so you guys end up going out and kicking butt anyway, which is, I just think adds to the story.
And if those of you that have watched the first, if you've watched my season, you'll notice that like the first two legs, I honestly, I have only watched my season one time because I'm too embarrassed to even watch it again, because I cried so much those first two legs. And it was because I had built up this huge, for the show, I just said, I was going to miss my kids. I never left my daughter or any of my kids ever. But the biggest thing is that I had put so much pressure on myself that I didn't want to fail and mess up for him. And I just thought that I was just messing up like one thing after another. And so I was putting I had put a lot of like stress. So then now we're racing and I'm just like crying like nonstop. I think after like, the third leg, I think I started to compose myself, except for the oil thing. I cried like a baby on that one. But but the thing is that we were doing so well and I'm messing it up, and I'm the one that's messing us up. So that's one of the reasons why if anyone watches it again and I look like a lunatic crying, that's really what it was. I was scared out of my mind to like mess up, and then I feel like I'm messing up his career.
We're going to take more questions from our viewers and listeners that are interested in having their questions answered by Sheri, but I want to give you a little quiz. What do these numbers have in common? 9, 8, 6, 7, 7, 7, 5, 6, 3, 4, 3, 2. You know what those numbers are? Those are the numbers of your finishes. Think about that progression. 9, listen to me again. 9, 8, you were ninth in the first leg. 8, 6, 7, 7, 7. That's the first 5. Then you went 5, 6, 3, 4, 3, 2. I mean, you're going just like this as far as being successful. Almost everyone except 2 occasions, you were better than the leg before. That's really impressive. And by the way, the highest finish, folks, for any mother-child team with their second place finish in Amazing Race. I think that's pretty darn good, don't you?
And I think that Cole is the youngest to be in the top.
Youngest player to be in the top or in the finals at 19 years old. That's. I mean, that'll do something for your brand now. I mean, that was a great decision.
I joke around that what we did, it was kind of like this. Okay, so where do we need a place to still be in the race? Okay, we can do that. Right. It was just like we just had. Woo!
Yeah.
And I'm sure.
And didn't you finish last on a couple of non-eliminations too, right? One was non-elimination, one was something else. Push it forward or.
Yeah, the one with the oil change was a continuation.
Continuation, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
That was a two-leg one. And actually the next one, I think we were in Georgia. We actually ended up doing really well. And then in Dubai was, we were just clear. We were last by so far. And I know you need to ask questions, but just to get inside of my mind, it was a self-drive leg. And there was just, I feel like there was a lot of pressure put on me. I don't want to badmouth anybody, but, I was getting a lot of female driver jokes and that sort of thing. And even though we did get lost, but it was kind of like, I was like, how like when someone puts a lot of pressure on you and then you make stupid mistakes, I kind of feel like that's what was going on. And there came a point where I already knew we were last. And so we were like, we're just going to enjoy this last leg, enjoy every memory, take everything in when we're on the little boat at the very end. And, going to the finish mat.
Yep.
I was just, because I'm like, this is amazing. We still ended up really far, and I was ready. I was so done. I was just ready to be done because my mind couldn't handle anymore. And I just took it all in. So then when Phil said, this is a non-elimination leg, you can see, if you look at our faces, we're like this. Are you sure?
You can't go home. Just keep going.
And we were like, afterwards, we're like, because you kind of have to sit down and you got to turn your stuff in. And we're both sitting there. We're like, are you for real? Like, we're still in this thing? And then we're like, all the other teams are going to hate us because we got the continuation. And then we got also a non-elim. Yeah.
When you finished third in, I don't know, like 8th or 9th leg, and then you next time 4th, or you went 3rd, 4th, 3rd, and then 2nd at the end. Are you guys thinking, you know what? We can win this thing. I mean,
we didn't think that until we came in 3rd in China.
Okay. Yeah.
But then we're in China and we're sitting in the hotel and Cole's like, Mom, we can really win this thing. And I'm like, oh my God, I know. Like, I'm thinking, how the money would really help us. I got boys in college. And I was like, gosh, we really can win this thing. Like, let's just give it let's give it 110%.
And would you say that the team, I forgot the guys' names and you guys didn't give me the notes, but the team that finished 3rd, they were kind of like the favorites going in, right?
Yeah, Tyler and Corey. They were incredible. Yes.
That was interesting. Let's take a few more questions for Sheri. By the way, quick programming note: we are speaking with Sheri LaBrant from season 28 of The Amazing Race. And I noticed as we're doing this series of Amazing Race, people call it The Race, which means like that is the race. It's like being a share, right? There's no other. So it's the race, and they're racers, not competitors. I learned all this stuff as I go on here. It's pretty cool. And I was 19 and a half, and then Cole beat my record. So just want you guys to know that. Not true. Let's see. Ashley's getting a lot of questions from Phoenix, Arizona. She wanted to know, Sheri, what was your favorite challenge and least favorite challenge? Oh, Ashley, come on. It's 10 o'clock in the morning here in the East. And
we're going to go with the oil change. That was the least favorite.
Yeah.
Which I'll give a backstory. The reason why I chose to do that is because I fix a lot of things at the house, and I'm kind of like a handyman. So it made more sense for me to do that. I was like, oh yeah, I'll be able to figure it out. Yeah. I just feel I just happened to have chosen the wrong car that had a lot of people wrote to me after the show and explained to me that sometimes those oil filters will actually get stuck on there.
Yep.
And the only way is like if you got to get a screwdriver and break the seal and turn it that way.
That's right.
I just happened to get the bad car. Otherwise, I would have been able to figure it out. Everyone else's car was super easy. It's just I got the bad car. So that one is probably my least favorite. I really had fun racing the camels. Like I always go back to that one. That was a lot of fun. I really had fun doing that one. And then probably paragliding over the French Alps. That was pretty.
That looked awesome to do. Mark from Danbury, Connecticut wants to know, what country did you visit that you thought you may return? Like, it was so cool. I think I got to come back to.
I would love to go back to Bali. I really did. I mean, Indonesia, sorry, but we were in Bali. Mm-hmm. I would love to go there. I love the culture, and I'm more of a warm weather kind of girl. So I loved the water and everything there. So I would like to go back to there. I thought Dubai was incredibly beautiful, and Chamonix was incredibly beautiful as well.
How did Cole handle the heights? I know and you yourself too. I was reading a bunch of stuff about you guys being fearful of heights.
We're terrified of heights. Yes. Yeah, so try on the heights as well. Yeah. So we're both horribly afraid of heights. But me being the mom, I'm like, we already decided I would do all the height challenges, and it didn't mean I wasn't going to be scared or I wasn't going to cry, but I wouldn't have been able to watch him do anything with heights if I knew that he was afraid. And it's weird because I do roller coasters and all sorts of things like that, but you know, when you just like have like a rope attached to you, it's like really scary.
Yeah, I
Because
I can
you know
imagine.
what? With this like on a roller coaster, you know, you're kind of belt like everything's like really secure. With like, you know, I'm just like tethered into stuff, and I'm like, oh man, this doesn't seem very safe.
So let's talk a little bit of strategy. A lot of questions are around, for example, Carolyn's question. Carolyn is from Austin, Texas. She's asking, how difficult was it to take around a voice and camera person with you? Some people don't realize that that has to happen as you move through your legs. Um, is that a challenge, or how does that work?
Well, the camera and sound guy, they're like in better shape than we are. Like they're like I'm
Oh yeah.
dying with, and they're in front of us running backwards with these, you know, I'm like, wow, it's amazing. The only thing that probably is difficult is getting into the cab, you know, because you know we're scrunched in like this close. You got your sound guy right here, and then you got your camera guy in front, and so you got to squeeze everybody in. And then also, anytime that like you talk to somebody, you have to pause, and the sound guy has to get a release form, and that's kind of difficult because you know, you're ready to go, and you actually have to like take a moment. And then if it's a, you know, now you're in a different country and the people don't understand what you're saying, what they're saying. And so that's kind of you know, like you want to get out of your taxi, and you can't get out of your taxi because now they're talking to the taxi driver and getting the release form. And then when we were in China, we were trying to figure out like stuff, and what was happening is that more people were coming, like walking to us. You know, I'm sure they're just wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm like trying to push people away because I know he's going to have to get all these people to sign forms.
Oh,
So I'm no, like we don't need any. I don't need any more people because he's already having to get 5 forms. Now he's going to have to get, you know,
yeah.
instead of a bit of a frustrating, you know, thing having to get this release forms.
Tell us a little bit about the travel strategy, right? We see the two planes taking off. And one of the things I was interested in before we get to the travel strategy, you're talking about minutes, and they actually matter. I mean, like you just made a perfect example of, if I have somebody that's got to sign a release because I talked to 2 people that are natives, that I want to make sure that, you know, I'm verifying if the cab knows what he's talking about. So I talked to 2 other people, just an example. There's 2 signatures. But if I talk to 7, that may take an extra 5 or 10 minutes, right? Or 5 minutes, whatever. Those minutes add up. It's not just that specific 5, but if we take that and extrapolate it all the way through 10 different legs, we might be 2 hours, you know, difference in time. And when we see it on TV, that can be a matter of winning and losing. Is that true?
Oh, most definitely. And I hated the fact that they didn't show this, but Cole was really, really good at picking up which taxi driver knew what they were talking about. So he would talk to one, and as soon as like one would be kind of like, oh, he'd be like, nope. Like he just make an executive decision right then and there and go to, you know, so I felt that really helped us out a lot because most of the time when we got into a taxi, they knew exactly what we were talking about and where we were going. And I feel like that made a huge difference. And, you know, they don't show that. And I wish that he kind of got a little bit more credit for that because I really think that helped us a whole lot.
I can see how that would be a time saver. I mean, in the folks that I've talked to, the racers that I've talked to, it's every second counts. And the people talk about, you know, how many times, who was I just speaking with that literally, Jenny, was it Jenny? I don't remember. The reason they lost was because the cab got lost, and there was some religious event that the cabs were going to the airport and taking people to, and it was like, and so they were saying, here's where we have to go. And it was a church just like the other one, but he took them 30 minutes away from where they're supposed to go because he did like 8 different trips right in a row because there were so many people coming in for this national event. And it completely screwed him up. And when they tried to get back and they said, look, we have to they ended up back at the airport after like 30 minutes and they had to like start over again. It was a disaster. And she was mortified. Let's talk about the travel strategy. We see the airplanes flying around and you've got to make sure you're on the first plane or the first subway or the first bus or whatever. Is it play just like that? You guys are battling in travel agencies and you're trying to work it out. I mean, is there any strategy there of how to get your tickets? I mean, that's a big part of the game.
Yeah, our first legs were like that, but then, and I think that we might have been one of more of the first seasons that went this route. And I don't know if all the other seasons are like this, but once we kind of got out of the North American, South America hemisphere.
Yeah, you guys kind of stayed along where you were.
Yeah, they gave such very, very, very specific instructions on this, like, you got to fly here, but you cannot fly over this country. You cannot fly over this. You can't do this, and this, and this. It actually ended up being, if you notice, most of the time, all of us were on the same flight.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And, they wouldn't tell us, but, there was like a lot of terrorist stuff kind of like that's when the Paris bombing had happened. And so I don't know if it was just them being extra careful to have all of us on the same plane with our security, just because otherwise, if you got so many people on so many different planes, how is the security gonna, even though they say, I asked that and they were like, oh no, that's not the reason why, but to me that makes a lot more sense that there was a lot of stuff going on, and I think that maybe they just wanted to make sure all of us were safe.
I think you're right. We are speaking with Sheri LaBrant from Amazing Race 28. If you have a question for your favorite racer, send it over to, or just go to our website at whatwouldyoutask.com and we'll get it out there and on there for you. And we're all over social media and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And I don't know where else. My kids know. Cole knows. Ask Cole where we're supposed to go to find out all that stuff. I don't know all that. TikTok and who knows? Oh my God, it's a new app every day. So anyway, just go there. Quick question from Eric that I just lost. Oh, Eric wants to know, and Eric is from Huntington Beach, California. Well, that must be a tough thing to get up to every morning. Is that beautiful beach there, Eric? Eric wants to know what skills are important to have to be successful on Amazing Race. Good question.
Well, that is a good question.
I mean, it's a physical battle. It's a mental battle. I mean, it's a lot of things you gotta, what are the most important things did you find?
Well, and actually we didn't do this right away. We started watching other teams do it. A lot of other teams would do research. So like we could be in the airport and we know we're flying to another country. And so you could kind of get on the computers and do a little bit of research on that country that you're going to. So I guess if like I'm assuming that's a skill, but doing a little bit of research on the country you're about to go to. So then if they say, you need to go to this statue, you're like, oh, well, I know what that statue is because this is so-and-so that I read about and that sort of thing. We didn't really do that until we saw everyone else. We would just be like hanging out in the airport. But we're like, I don't know, maybe we need to look things up. And then
that's so good.
I feel like our season was easy because we kind of all caught on that the hashtags were really important because we're a social media cast.
Yeah.
But that you need to be able to catch, I don't know, you got to be really good at picking up the details because that's what you need on that final leg.
It's so,
a lot of
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just going to say that a lot of those are your hints as to what you need to do that final leg.
Absolutely. And I mentioned Bates Battaglia before the winter, and I think it was season 22, him and his brother Anthony. And I asked the same question to him, and he said one of the things that they committed to, they watched the race, their fans and all that stuff, was they read everything twice. Everything they read it twice and thorough, because they're the kind of guys that was something that they know would screw them up. They're athletic, they're in shape, they're so from that standpoint, they're mentally tough. But where they thought would be an error on their part would be being dismissive of, I got it, let's go. You know what I mean? That kind of, I read it, go, right? And instead of taking that extra 30 seconds, read it again, make sure you're everything that the clue or whatever you're doing. And these guys end up winning. They said that was probably one of the keys to their success. Suzanne, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I feel like another reason why Cole and I did well pretty good, is that we also would read like when you had to choose which task. A lot of times we would try to pick the one that was either what we thought would be the most fun, had the most memories, but also something that necessarily wasn't judged. In other words, like if we needed to count how many seats were in this bench, you're going to be right or wrong. Where like if you have to cook something, then now the judge can look at it and say, oh, well, this isn't cooked the way that I want you to cook it. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but we kind of like a concrete answer instead of just like, oh, well, the fish doesn't have, the tail right here. If that makes any sense,
It does. Absolutely makes sense. Gary from Wilmington, North Carolina wants to know, what was your most memorable moment in the race?
Oh, I mean, I definitely feel like when we came in third, like I feel like we won the whole race when we came in third in China, because we were just so sure that we were out of it. It was a really tough leg. We're trying to learn how to do the hoverboard thing, and it was pouring down rain. It was raining. Our feet are slipping, and we just knew that we were out. Like we knew we were out. Again, like we knew we were out in Dubai, but we just knew that we were out. And so then when we rounded the corner and the two teams were there, waiting for us, and that was amazing because we got along well with everyone, and it was so exciting that's probably the most memorable moment of the whole race for me.
Jesse from Newport News, Virginia asks, what was it like to be a mom doing a one-on-one event with her son?
Oh, I mean, I had a blast. I thought it was the best thing ever. And actually when Cole and I went into the race, we made the decision that we would be equal partners. And it wasn't that like, I'm the mom or he's a man, that we were equal partners and that we would discuss, make decisions mutually, and no one was going to like trump card each other. So we went in as equal partners. And even though we were a mother-son team, I feel like we kind of raced as if we were friends. And it was great. At times, at times we had the same bed. And so, you can't pack a lot of clothes. So I would like stack up pillows between us, so he'd feel comfortable sleeping to his mom.
That's so funny. That's so good. I love it. Excuse me. Where are we? Michael from Staten Island, New York. Hey, buddy, right across the street there. Wants to know. I just lost the question off the screen, boys. Oh, do you stay in touch with any fellow racers? That's what Mike's question was.
No, I mean, there's maybe a couple that I'll reach out. Like, we'll talk back and forth. Brittany and Corey are probably the only ones that I would say I, talk to once in a while here and there. But for the most part, nobody else.
Did you see that in the early, people are actually fans of Cole's that were on the show? Like they were, I guess there's level of social media, but they were interviewing people early on. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe Cole LaBrant is here. Like, did you see? I mean, that was pretty cool, wasn't it? That there was people that were.
Yeah, because I think that happened when we were in, I guess maybe Mexico. When we were at the airport, where like tons of fans just started coming up, and they were recognizing the social media stars, and those of us that we just kind of backed up. Like,
oh, that's so funny.
Call them and take.
That's funny. So let me ask you this. There was a time that you guys were asked to return, at least my notes in front of me say this, and Cole's wife was pregnant at the time. Is that factual?
Yes.
Wow. And
yeah. Go ahead.
Just
asked audition, doesn't necessarily mean that we would have been picked, but they said that like we were like a favorite like mother-son team. And Cole was saying no. And I was like, oh my God, come on, let's do it one more time. Little did I know Savannah was pregnant. And Savannah wanted him to do it too, because she thought it would be fun. But, he didn't want to leave her, first baby pregnant and everything.
They asked you in an interview if you would do it again. And you said, You said, I would do it yearly, no doubt. That's pretty cool.
I mean, it's exhausting. And like when we got home, I think we slept for like 2 or 3 days, like a dead person. But it's exhausting. I just felt like it was such a great memory to do with Cole, and even Cole says it's one of the best things that he's done in his life as well.
Yeah, he said he didn't know what his quote basically was, to be honest with you, I wasn't sure what to expect, but it was one of the most awesome experiences of my life. I mean, that's really, really cool stuff. So is there, I know you can't, if there, it's a double-edged sword here. If we ask Sheri if she would go back or if she plans on going back, she can't tell us because they don't let her tell us, but would you go back hypothetically, now?
Yeah, I mean, I would be willing to do it again. I would do it again with Cole. We would have a great time. I mean, I would even do it with one of my other sons. I kind of think that might be kind of fun to see me race with a different son, because you would see the different dynamic, and that would be cool.
A lot of shows do the runner up, right? They do all the, I think Survivor's done it with bringing back all the runners up that were that close to winning. Why not do that with Amazing Race? I don't know.
Well, they do that. I know that they do that with the other shows, but I don't necessarily see them doing that a whole lot with Amazing Race.
They haven't done it. You're right. They haven't.
Yeah. Like they have like an all-star, but besides that, they don't bring people back as much as Survivor does.
So tell us about your return. So you guys end up, first of all, you're fan favorites because people loved you on the show. Just the dynamic. You were emotional, but there wasn't really drama between, you're not fighting every minute. And you were successful. Like I said, you went from 9th place to 2nd place and built up, like, if you were being judged at performance at work, it would be like, this team should stay together because they're successful everything we give them. Right. Tell us about what happens when you get home, the show goes on the air. Are you guys instant celebrities? I mean, Cole's his own celebrity, but for the Amazing Race, do people start recognizing the LaBrant family? Oh, look what they're doing now, and look how they're successful. And as far as the show goes,
to be completely honest, no. I was kind of surprised. I mean, and not that I wanted the fame, but I was a little bit surprised that, here we are in a smaller town in Alabama, probably not many people doing a CBS show, and then we actually did really well. I was surprised that more news channels didn't want to do like little interviews and that sort of thing, because it's kind of cool that you got somebody that's racing. I mean, we're racing on CBS. It's a big network.
Yeah.
We did one interview, and then I think like another wanted to do an interview like right before the finale. But we were already flying out to California for the finale. So I was like, in my opinion, no, you missed it. Like you had I don't know how many weeks. You had all these weeks that you could have interviewed, and no, I'm not going to break my back to try to do an interview. No. So nothing at all whatsoever.
That's unbelievable. I mean, do people recognize you at all? I mean, they must recognize you a little bit, no? In town?
I don't know. I mean, now I live in Tampa, but I normally don't actually, I look a lot different now because I cut my hair off. I let my roll.
Different color hair. And yeah, that's true. She's in the witness protection program, folks. We didn't tell you that. I'm kidding.
So the only time I'll get recognized sometimes just that I'm Cole's mom, but not from the Amazing Race. Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to know how Cole's doing. Could you give us a little update on your son?
Oh yeah, they're doing great. We'll see them for Thanksgiving. They got the third little baby, Zealand, and they're doing wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Zealand was in NICU for a little while right after he was born, but he's perfectly fine. And Posey and Everly are great. Savannah's great. So yeah, they're doing wonderful. I can't wait to see them again.
That's awesome. Listen, I really appreciate you joining us today, Sheri, and, taking us through the journey on Amazing Race. I think it's amazing that you guys, not that it's even, mother-son thing, but, people go into that, fans of the show that just it's their whole life in preparation, and for you guys to kind of go along, and I don't want to say cavalier kind of way, but you kind of just took it as it came, and you just went as hard as you can when it was time. But your point about like when everybody's doing research and you guys are sitting and relaxing is like fun. That would definitely be me and one of my kids. You're like, why is everybody, what are they looking at?
Yeah, I know.
And then to come in runner up is, I mean, it's just such an achievement, and it's so cool. I'm glad that happened to you. You deserve it. You got a great family, and we wish you all the best.
Well, thank you so much.
We'll be back with more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.